Alright lads, a wee little update for you. So, got the alternator. The alternator's out. It's the solenoid for the starter down yonder. The bilge is getting cleaner. Look at that. We're getting there. You actually start to see some of the framing. But wait until you see this though. Here we go. Cue the Mission Impossible soundtrack. And a bit of one of those sci-fi man who goes beyond, seeks ventures, new discoveries. Here's the man who's going to try and figure all this shit out. Right? Okay. And I can hear my dad in this when I'm doing a lot of this, because he had to deal with this, let's say 30 times larger. I'd say easy 30 times larger, if not 100 times. I'm talking about wiring systems for airports and multi-level shopping centres like Westfield and stuff like that, right? So to hear me be like, it's a piece of piss, huh? But check this out. Anyone who's been around a bit, have a look at this for an old fuse. Look at that. Probably, right? Okay. I was probably the last of the childhood that was ever exposed to these type of things. So in there's an actual fuse wire, and I remember learning to do that as a kid with my dad. Right. If you've ever gone to an old house, maybe it's abandoned, and you found like a bit of cardboard with wire around it in the meter box, that's what it was for. Right, back in my days, so you were able to actually replace your own household fuses. When the guy came out to read the meter, that's all he did. He just came out to read the meter. Everything else was actually up to the household owner to look after. And one of those was the fuses, and that's mainly before they actually put in circuit breakers. Someone comes along, this correct me. You're more than welcome to correct me. But I'm going back to when I wasn't even a teenager. So what's that? Adolescence? Is it 9, 10? Grade 3? Primary school. In primary school. So still in the 80s, around the mid 80s, there were still houses with those type of fuses. Wasn't uncommon. And usually happened when you put the kettle or the toaster, and there'd be Nana or Pop or Dad or wherever you were, you were over your mate's place. And it wasn't go and fix the fuse, will yous? So this is what one is because I just don't like it. I just don't like all of this. Like, I don't know what's what. Everyone's just, okay, so that's what those things are. Where are they? Up there. They're like Bakelite. Remember that? Bakelite. Pretty sure is another old thing. So I found these in the Troubles. This light's pretty bloody powerful, isn't it? So they're little fuse box covers. What's it called? See out there? Oh, so they're meant to go over that. Okay, so I but it's just you know what the word's called? There's a word before fight. So they've got this, and then they've got that, and then there's that one over there, right? And the switches up there are all over the place. But as I am gradually embracing and embedding that, I keep being fronted up with all of these issues and problems simply because I'm capable of solving them. And there is a sense what Iron Wake Maritime is all about is your sovereignty, which is your independence as a man, that you have the ability to take care of these things. And there was a post that came up about swinging an axe and how, based on medical and scientific data, that it actually is one of the strongest ways to naturally boost testosterone because of the psychological and the physiological signals to the brain and then the brain to the body. What's going on with your hormones as a male. And I've got a feeling stuff like this is very similar because this is part of my survival with sitting pelican. I can't figure any of that out, which I know I can. We can't get the engine going, right? And we won't be able to get going. So there's that sense of accomplishment. Look at this old Speedo. So that's the Speedo. This red one here is it's the opposite of a choke. I think it's like a shut-off valve. It just shuts off somewhere down the back there. Oh, that big D, that's a mechanical fuel injection system, that silver part. And then on the back of that's like I guess you'd call it a gate, and it just shuts the fuel off. That's the only way to close this engine off, right? Is you got to shut the fuel off. There's the accelerator cable. And, I mean, they had all this stuff just coming in left and right. There's a doozy. I'll show you a doozy. I'll explain it to you from this side, just because it's annoying. So somewhere, where have they got it? I think it's there. Can you see that? So they've got wires that go out. Wires that go out there, tracks up, goes to the other side of this wall. Wait for it now. Wait for it. Okay. Goes through a bit of conduit pipe. Goes down the conduit pipe. Then goes along the other side of that wall, and then comes back. Then comes back in here somewhere. Down in there. What was it over there? And look at this for old school. How's we going with the camera here? That, can you see that one? Look, this spirally one. That's the water temp. How's that for old school? But the good thing about these type of things, they're analog, right? And then this copper one. You see this copper pipe? That's the oil pressure. So what's going to be interesting is I went and got some JB welding putty called Need It. I think it's called Need It. Yeah. So that'll be interesting. We get a pressure read, which I didn't click on. I mean, this is all learning as I'm going, right? I just, at most would go, duh, mate, like that. Well, hey, it is a duh moment because it's just not in my knowledge bank right now. But now that it is something to look for, right? And that will give me an idea whether that weld, that putty weld's holding up. So when I'm look at, you can see what something went on in here. Look at that. Bzzz. So trying to figure it out, what's going on. Okay, there's that brown one. No, hang on. Where's that brown one? So this brown one here comes from this one, right? This one comes off the positive from the solenoid. So I'm of the thinking now that this is a positive that's come from the battery. So the battery, and then it's taking a positive into here, and this has something to do with the ignition switch. Right. So, I mean, do you want to hang around while I figure this out? It's tricky. It's tricky without all the proper camera equipment. Because that's the switch. One of those black go to the light, and this black one goes to this. Hoo-ha. And I mean, like, look at that. That's a little, oh, looking at the back of the camera. I mean, back of the torch. There's a melt mark there. It's just going to be one of those things, isn't it? But okay, that tape, because I'll tell you the story, and then I'm going to have to close off because it's just getting frustrating. Okay. So the way it works is, so one of these yellows was a ground, the other yellow was going to the D positive on the alternator. One of the orange was, what was the other one? Going to the positive on the solenoid, right, on one of the spades, which is part of the switch system, I believe. And then these two, not necessarily these two, right, but two orange ones went to the B plus on the back of the alternator. So all this led up into there, right? And why is it like that? Well, look, here's a classic. Take a little extra time to make sure that your work site is clean. But I was going to have to do this anyway, but still. What happened is I was cutting this when I'm sitting underneath me, the old live well, cutting it out so I could get better access to put the putty in underneath the sump. And anyway, the circular saw got caught up. These wrapped around the circular saw. Had a bit of a laugh, to be honest with you. But it's sort of one of those things. I was going to do it anyway, right? And it gives you a little bit of, now it's a necessity. Because now that I've pulled this out and I'm having a look in here, I can see that things were going to go whoop-de-doo real soon. Because, can you see how that's melted in there? That's melted. You've got a loose wire there. You've got, this is taped, that's taped. Like, what is it? What is that? Something's missing off there. Oh, that's a cigarette lighter. Okay, that's a horn switch. Yeah. And then you've got this whole thing up here. It's like, what? And then they've wired in at the old stereo system. I'll get that back up and running just for what, I don't know, what do you call it? Nostalgic? Things like that. And then we've got this big old beast, right? And that's all his wonderful stuff, but this wall's coming out anyway, so right, because that's going to be, this will be eventually the entry. I've been looking at a few of the other river cruisers or canal boats here, and they actually, all the motor sailors, and they have an entry coming through the middle, which I prefer. I think it just makes far more sense, right? Because all of this is, in a way, it's a dead space. Like, look at that. Whee! And it's all dead space. It's just all dead space. So, and this is where I was thinking of having a shower, but that's not going to happen now. This needs to be like an empty. This needs to be empty void, and the best way to use an empty void is to have it as an in and out, an access area. Right? Makes sense, doesn't it? But in case you were wondering, that's what's on the cards, and I very much would like to get back down to Ducky Boy, back to my home waters where my mooring is, and finally be anchored up down there. Then I can be with me boats, and I don't need to have a little bit of paranoia in the back of my mind if anyone's trying to ransack my stuff down there, because that's not a good feeling, is it? And plus it just saves a lot of travel, saves a lot of wear and tear on the crew. And once I get the sitting Pelican down with Ducky Boy on the mooring and raft up, have the two boats raft up, then I can start fixing little Hop and Ren. He'll be my little sailing row. It will be motor, rowing and sailing tender. And then I can get Crowboy fixed up. And the debate will be putting into a mechanic. I'm just not sure though. But not sure. I'll do as much as I can on Crowboy until I really have to go. Alrighty, he needs to go to a mechanic, and mainly because the mechanic will have all the equipment. But just one more. This will give you, if you're doing any of this, I would say you'd be better off just going through the mind, the labyrinth of the mind of it all, just to get it done better. Like, it's just not, I don't like it, and I understand now why Dad was very meticulous, because look, if you're dealing with this type of stuff, you need to be meticulous. I think there's just a huge benefit. That old household views is just, hey, how about that? I'll keep it, and I'll figure it out. But how about that? that's going back. That's going back. Right. Same as this Bakelite stuff. Jeez Louise. Alright, so enough of that. But this is all just about showcasing. You don't need to be an expert just to start learning. Even to do these videos, I needed to achieve so much before I could even have some type of sense of honoring my own credibility, in the confidence that I have the right. Something to work on, isn't it? But then you think, you never know. You just don't know if what I've got to share is just that little bit of something that you know what I mean, blows on the ambers and gets their fire back up and running. So be good, be great, be brilliant. Or feel good, feel great, feel brilliant. Like tune in. Yeah, tune in to the fellow you'd rather be. You're gonna become it eventually. That's my theory anyway. So just keep doing what you can. This is what I'm doing here. I'm doing what I can with what I have. I'm learning as I'm going, and I'm leading myself to the places, the accomplishments, the achievements that I seek to acquire.